Hello everybody and welcome to another amazing video of DIY investing. As you guys know, the market has sold off substantially over the last week, and ever since my last update, I talked about why I was expecting we would see one more final lower low before the market was going to reverse. Now that we've seen that lower low, I've had many of you guys asking me what I believe is next, where the market is going to be headed, how much longer do we have to consolidate before we get that reversal, and I've got the most important charts to share with you today. We're going to be diving into Bitcoin along with the Bitcoin dominance because there's some very important patterns that I want you guys to be aware of. And we're going to be finishing up by taking a look at Ethereum because I noticed a pattern playing out in Ethereum that takes me all the way back to the last cycle right before that last major alt season started. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. If you find any value in this video, please do me a favor, hit that like, comment, and subscribe button. And without further ado, let's jump right into this amazing video today. I wanted to go through and start off today's video by reading a little bit of the news that recently came out over the last week because I feel like this is very important for understanding where we're at in this cycle and why I'm still leaning towards the belief that we still are going to have another brand new all-time high coming very soon. Now, many people have completely exited the markets. They've sold, they've gotten out of the altcoins, and I've noticed a significant amount of people that have actually begun selling altcoins and buying into Bitcoin. Many people have given up on the idea that altcoins are ever going to pump. But there was an announcement that was made just this last weekend that I felt was really important to talk about because I do believe that this is where we're going to see a lot of this short-term hype propel us throughout the rest of 2025. President Trump made an announcement and said that he plans to make a crypto reserve that includes Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana, XRP, and Cardano. Now, he did make some other plans to actually include a few other ones in the list, but as of right now, these are the cryptos that are going to be in the basket for the crypto reserve of America, right? So with that announcement, we ended up seeing the price of Bitcoin bounce pretty quickly. Bitcoin's price rebounded from all the way back down here around 80 to 84,000, and it bounced all the way up to about $95,000. And everybody, including myself, was leaning towards the idea that this was actually the bottom and we were going to end up reversing. This was going to be some type of V bottom before we ended up going much higher. However, as we can see, the market rejected. There was some news that came out around Ukraine and the war and all of this about Zelensky not wanting to pull out, and we ended up seeing the market sell off and get a lot more fear kind of entering in here. So as it stands right now, the market has pulled back. We are back down to that same support level that we had just held from, and we are currently retesting that, and we've basically fully retraced that move. So now the question comes, are we about to see a lower low, or, what is ultimately going to happen in the shorter time frames with Bitcoin? And I went to a weekly time frame because as we're zooming out here, guys, I still think it's very important that we're just analyzing it from level to level. Just analyzing some basic support and resistance because truthfully, I think that this is going to be speaking volumes to where we're at and where we still have to go. I find it very interesting that the market of Bitcoin has finally made this all-time high breakout, right? Because even though this was an all-time high and we just kind of consolidated below that level, it still wasn't a true breakout, right? We were still holding below that prior all-time high resistance, and it wasn't until this move that we finally got that breakout. Now, what I find is really interesting is that now that we've got this breakout into price discovery and we're seeing this pullback, so many people are now bearish and they're completely flip-flopped on their thesis. And it really has everything to do with that Ethereum is so far down. A lot of the other altcoins like the meme coins got hit really hard. So many people are assuming that all of the hype around the altcoins and crypto is just done right now and they need to flock into Bitcoin. However, what I'm noticing is this is all taking place after we've already corrected, right? We already had this breakout into price discovery, and now we've basically retraced that entire pump, came back down to retest that same breakout level. Keep in mind, we could still end up tagging this level one more time before the true reversal, but when I'm looking at this chart, I really don't see any reason to be super shaken out by our positions. Nothing has changed, although we are going through a deeper correction. And when we take the time to come over here and take a look at ETH, I think that ETH is really explaining something going back to our last cycle, something that happened with Bitcoin right before it made its brand new all-time high. And I think that the price action is actually the same. It's almost the exact same type of consolidation, and this is why so many people are about to get trapped out of their positions. When we're looking at this, it reminds me a lot of what we saw in Bitcoin in the last cycle. Now, if you guys remember, I'm going to go over and look at the Bitcoin chart here. If we go over and look at the Bitcoin chart, in the last bull market, we had this correction, and then out of the correction, you made that first higher high, right? And in Bitcoin, that went all the way back up to the 618 Fibonacci, right? That's where it ended up peaking over in here. And we saw this big run to start off that new cycle, coming all the way back up near those prior all-time highs. And what we noticed shortly after was we made this little corrective period. We came back down and started to bottom back down in here, and everybody kind of assumed that it was going to hold this level. And we had this false breakout. We even broke out of the downtrending resistance. And then when we were unable to actually hold that breakout and we started to reject here and here, that was what led us into that final sort of capitulation. And this is a pattern that I want you guys to pay attention to, because anytime you have a market and it's been consolidating in a pattern and then it breaks out of that pattern, anytime you have a breakout, the price should immediately follow through and do this, right? That's what you're expecting with a breakout. However, whenever you have a breakout that is unable to hold and it ends up actually selling back down, that's what's called a false breakout. And anytime you have sort of this consolidation range that you're bouncing back and forth in, and you break from that, if the breakout's unable to hold, oftentimes it'll make this big capitulation and make a lower low. And so this is something that is very typical amongst failed breakouts. Usually a failed breakout will have a really big and violent sell-off to the way back down. So when we're looking at Ethereum and comparing it, I think that this is very much the same type of a setup. We're just seeing a different version of the same thing, where Bitcoin had that same long-term consolidation that we were in, and then it was after the false breakout of that consolidation that we ended up seeing this move right in here. And it's almost the same thing that ETH is doing today, where both of them had this downtrending resistance. They were kind of consolidating all the way back down in this range. Lower lows, lower highs, just ping-ponging back and forth. And then it was once Ethereum made that false breakout right here, and it actually got rejected, closed bearish here and made that lower low, we ended up following the exact same pattern, where this is just a failed breakout, right? And if you notice here, it's the same pattern playing out once more. The only difference is I think that we're just moments away from completing it, right? Because we had the higher high, we had the false breakout, and now we're kind of in this final sort of capitulation. And whether that makes one more low back down to this $20 or $1,500 level, I wouldn't be surprised, but I don't think it changes anything, because I do anticipate that whether we bottom where we're at now, whether we make one more lower low back down to the support of 1550, I think that it is ultimately going to create this reversal before we see something along the lines of this. In the same ways that nothing up to this point has changed our long-term thesis. Bitcoin pulling back down here, having this deeper pullback, we can still make a correction and come back down and tag some of these lower levels, and it doesn't invalidate anything, because all Bitcoin has done is made its first breakout into price discovery, and this is really just that first sell-off taking place after. So when I'm looking at all of these things, I think it's important because all of it lines up with the Bitcoin dominance. If we're going to see Ethereum reverse, it would line up that the Bitcoin dominance should also be at a topping point. And I think that that is really where, if we're comparing the last cycles, if we're comparing where we're at today, it's all kind of lining up with a similar thing. And we're at the final moment of time, right? We're either going to break down and the Bitcoin dominance is going to sell off, or it's going to break out and altcoins are dead. And I don't really see another scenario, moving forward from here. But the bullish news when looking at the Bitcoin dominance is on every time frame you have bearish divergence. So here on the weekly time frame, we have bearish divergence forming between this higher high and this lower high. If we come over here and go to the 2-week, it's the same pattern, still a bearish divergence. If we come over here to the 3-week, it's once again still the same pattern, still bearish divergence. And if we come over here to the monthly time frame, it's still exactly the same. We have bearish divergence on the RSI on every single higher time frame, every week, 1 week, 2 week, 3 week, 4 week. And I do believe that this is the early sign that this could finally be topping, right? We need to see this market top if we're ever going to see the altcoins rebound. And that's just the God honest truth. And I'm not going to sit here and lie to you guys that that's what we need to see. But when we're looking at the market finally showing a little bit of exhaustion here on the higher time frames, it does at least give us a little bit of confidence that we could be at that reversal point, considering on the MACD, this thing is making a higher high, yet on the price, we've never made a higher high from the last cycle. So we have hidden bearish divergence forming on the monthly with the MACD. And we also technically have hidden bearish divergence on the RSI on top of bearish divergence on the RSI on every single weekly time frame. So as far as if we're going to see a correction inside of the Bitcoin dominance, it's got to happen now. We've been waiting. We've been watching to see what all is going to take place. We're looking at Ethereum. It's made this massive correction. We had that false breakout. It's selling off way more than Bitcoin is. Bitcoin's in new all-time highs. Because of that, everybody's so panicked about the altcoins. They're getting out altcoins. They're buying back into Bitcoin because they feel like this is the only thing the institutions will focus on. But I really do disagree with that. And I do find it likely that whether it's here or whether it's one more lower low back down to this $1,500 level, Ethereum is going to end up reversing, and I do believe that the V bottom that follows out of this correction is going to be very much the same as what we saw with Bitcoin right over in here. It's a repetition. It's repeating the exact same pattern at the same time in which we have Bitcoin dominance that is sitting here with massive exhaustion on all of our higher time frames. So if we're going to see a correction, it pretty much has to happen now. You know, we're already so late into 2025. We're now into the spring of 2025. In 2017, that was the exact moment when the altcoins went into their new all-time highs. So we're right at that final moment. We're either going to break out and make a big alt season and have a big 2025, or it's just not going to happen. And I know a lot of people are starting to believe that it's not going to happen, especially when we're looking at the charts of Ethereum and it's making this massive correction. Everybody's freaked out. But guys, this is the same stuff that happened in the last bull market right before the altcoins mooned. Every single altcoin in the last cycle, when Bitcoin dominance was up here, altcoins were already having 70, 80, 90% corrections. They were in the toilet. They're in the exact same position that they are today. There is no difference. So if we're going to see this reject, it's going to end up repeating the same patterns we've always seen. It's just that right where we're at here in March of 2025, we're really at that final line, the last moment of time before that reversal can take place. And so we're just going to watch and see. I'll keep you guys updated, but I wanted to keep it serious, keep you guys in the loop as far as what I'm watching and making sure that you guys can stay profitable, because I'm still confident alt season is going to kick off in 2025. It's just revolving around when this chart actually tops. So with that being said, guys, if you did find value in this video, please do me a favor. Hit the like, comment, and subscribe button. If you guys want to see anything I'm investing in long term, following any of my signals, anything I'm buying, selling, trading over this entire year, as well as when I take profits at the end of the cycle, you got to join the Discord server and join my private group. Links are in the description to go ahead and find that on my website. You guys can get lifetime access as long as I'm running the signals, as long as I'm investing. You'll be able to see what I'm doing with my money, and I'd love to have you guys in there. So check it out. Links are in the description. And with that being said, I'll catch you guys in the next one. As always, peace out.